Hello again, welcome back to our live show. It is live on a Thursday. If you missed part one, then you missed not only Don Howson talking with a great deal of penetration from his insight on Sheffield Wednesday and where they were in the transfer market this summer. You also missed a terrific 5 or 6 minute wraparound of the Brendan Ingle funeral service at Sheffield Cathedral today, and interviews with Harry Gratian and Damien Johnson, who put such great colour on this colourful and legendary character. So do catch up with that. Either this show is repeated at 11 p.m. tonight, or it's on my YouTube channel quite rapidly this evening. James Gregg joins us for part 2. He's going to round up sport of various sizes. He's been in the World Cup.
Yeah, there's not a great deal going on apart from the World Cup. I mean, obviously, you know, it sounds a bit silly saying that, but I mean, locally, there's not a great deal going on. It's that quiet period, isn't it? But World Cup fever takes over, Alan.
You've got some quirky stats or details about the World Cup to come. I watched the first half of Russia-Saudi, 5-0, as you know. What did you make of it?
I saw the goals, saw bits and pieces of it, but for Russia, I still think it's going to be a challenge for them to get out of the group, as they've got to play Egypt and Uruguay. And I think Uruguay are probably the dark horses for me, with their strike force and the quality they've got in their team. I think they could go quite far. So I know it's a great victory, and it's good that you want, really, I think, the host nation to do well for that buzz, and you know, I think the longer they stay in, the better. But I still think they're going to have a job, on the hands to get out of the group.
How poor was Saudi Arabia then?
Well, I think, having watched Soccer Aid last Sunday, I think that if one of the Soccer Aid teams had played against Saudi Arabia, it would have been a good game today. That's how bad they were. I thought it was shocking. But having said that, I agree with Dom on the point that it was a really good, solid Russian performance, and it's nice for the host nation to go well, because it does keep that buzz around the tournament, around the games, around the country. Because if they go out, you know, all the local, you know, it kind of loses it. The classic example was South Korea. In Japan, 2002, because they got to the semis.
South Korea didn't they?
And it was absolutely fantastic. The buzz around it, and obviously it was like phenomenon, wasn't it? They were all obsessed with Beckham as well.
And that was a World Cup of lots of shocks and upsets.
It was,
too. Yeah, because South Korea, I think, did they beat Italy? I think in the quarterfinals.
Sent them out. Yeah, that's good. So I think it is good for that buzz that Russia are doing well. And it was interesting to see Mr. Putin sat there talking. Yeah, very funny.
What little I saw, I mean, chocolate fire defending from some of the worst defending. I wouldn't expect to see that in the Sunday League, would you? Some of the defending.
Looking at the stats, Saudi Arabia actually had over 60% of possession, and they didn't have a shot on target. It just illustrates that if you don't do any, possession means nothing unless you do it with purpose and do something with it.
As we've often said, we hope that Sheffield Wednesday showed a great deal of purpose with their possession this year, more purpose than they showed.
As we discussed last year, they didn't show enough urgency on that score.
And that they start the season well. Just before we go on to Sheffield United, just to top and tail this business of this speculation, but it's more than speculation. As Dom has said, he's reported it, and it's in a sense it's quite predictable that clubs with a bit more money than Sheffield Wednesday are interested in a couple of players. And if you were going to look at Wednesday, it's pretty obvious which two players you'd home in on, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It's happened,
Forestieri and Bannon.
It's happened every summer, you know, since the chairman has been there. But the difference is this time that I think there is a degree of vulnerability with Wednesday, and that clubs are aware that you know, the profit and sustainability regulations that Wednesday have got to comply with, and so that there might be an opening, and that's why you might get a cheeky offer or two put on the table for some of their better players. To
accept it is how you could effectively utilise that money to improve the overall while losing a player. Banner, we talked about Forestieri earlier. I'm total agreement with you. It would take 15 million as a starting point, I think, to be a tempter. Barry Bannon, where do you place it? He's a great midfielder, but doesn't score goals. So where are we going?
That was exactly the point I was about to make. That I think we've seen that he is a quality operator at this level. When he's at his best, you know, he can control and dictate the tempo in midfield. Great passing range, wonderful left foot, but he got 1 goal last season, and that is a deeply disappointing return for a player with his ability, and he should be doing more. And I know you've written a few pieces in your columns recently where you've again highlighted it, and it's very true that if Wednesday are going to become serious challenges next year, they're going to have to get more contributions from midfield. And they really sorely missed Kieran Lee, being out for injury.
What is the situation there? Do you know? I tried to check it the other day and I couldn't really get to the bottom of it.
My understanding is that the only doubt in terms of pre-season training kicks off on June the 25th. And the one who they were still waiting on to find out whether he's going to be taking part on the first day is Joost van Aken.
Right. So Kieran Lee's clear to...
So, Kieran Lee, Stephen Fletcher and Gary Hooper. And they're going to be like new signings when they come back. Hopefully they will be involved and they need to get good, strong pre-seasons under the belts, as we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, particularly with Kieran Lee, the injuries of his hips, both hips he's had surgeries on. He's 29 and he's out of contract next year, so this is a big season for Kieran Lee. And it's what they do with Kieran Lee. Where do they play him? Because they've got so many central midfielders. But if they play 3-5-2, does Kieran Lee go back to right wing back?
Oh, I don't know.
Do they try him there?
I don't know.
They have Jack Hunt, they have Ash Baker, they have a few options. So it's an interesting little conundrum, but then you take the goals out of midfield if you put Lee there.
Well, I may have been talking about out the top of my head today, but I mean, with Aston Villa's parlour situation, and they have a player that I'm led to believe wanted to join Sheffield Wednesday rather than Villa a year or so ago, Conor Hourihane, who scored 11 goals from midfield last season. Is that worth a little dart? And could you tempt them into taking a swap with Jordan Rhodes?
Unless there was some sort of deal. We know that Steve Bruce is a big fan of Jordan Rhodes and has wanted him for years. And the danger is with Jordan Rhodes for Wednesday is that if they do let him go, that it's one of those where, even if it was a loan, the fear in your back of the mind is that with his track record and his pedigree, that is going to come back to bite you. And so I think that's what they're going to be. I think they might wait and leave that one for as long as possible and see how it develops over the course of the summer.
Look, he's not going to get Premier League clubs coming in, and it won't be, League One unless it's somebody like Sunderland or something like that, which would be spot on ideal because
the facts are that Jordan Rhodes, over the last 2 and a bit years, his career has stalled. Not just at Wednesday, it was the same at Middlesbrough. He had a year where he didn't play, didn't score any goals. So he needs to get his career back on track. The signs are that he's not going to fit into Jos Luhukay's blueprint, as the amount of times he was getting dropped or being on the bench last season suggests to me that he is not going to be the number one. And personally, I think it's Ati Nuyu. He has now made himself, and the way that he finished last season, he deserves the opportunity to lead the line at the beginning of next year.
Who would have predicted that, honestly? Full marks to him. I'm going to come for some. I don't know. You said I don't even know what it is you're going to say. You've got one or two.
Well, do you like
the World Cup?
Well, I was just going to say I saw.
We'll talk about Blades in a minute.
I saw something online, quite good, and it was talking about. I'll get it up here. I've got a couple of screen grabs, and it was basically saying the rank. It did a ranking of all the national foods of all the countries taking part in the World Cup, and it did them all on a ranking, and it was very funny. Do you want to know which one came out on top?
Of the lot, I'd want it to be our national food, fish and chips, but I don't suppose.
Unfortunately, it wasn't. No,
it
wasn't. They were way down. They were way down.
Is
they were
that
about 12 or something.
Food?
Yes, it was. No, roast beef. It was roast dinner.
Roast
dinner. Yeah.
Hardly ever have that.
Have a guess.
There you go.
What came out on top?
It was,
Was it an Indian dish of some kind?
Well, India are taking part.
Of course not. No, that's true. But we all like Indian.
It was Uruguay.
I mean, we all.
Uruguay came out on top with the chivito, and it's a club sandwich, but it's with steak. So, that sounds pretty good to me. Rather than, it does, doesn't it?
It's all right.
Yeah, it sounds good. So it's got all the club sandwich ingredients and stuff as well. I thought a bit controversial. Yeah. Another one that caught my eye was the Croatian Zagorski Skrugli. Right, I'm not sure that's pronounced right at all.
Sounds like part of a body part. That sounds like, doesn't it? Sounds like a medical term.
It might have removed or something. It looks pretty inoffensive, but it's actually pastry.
Does look like a body part.
It's filled with eggs, sour cream, and salt, and that is the national food of Croatia. Right. So I'm just glad that we don't live in Croatia, really.
Okay.
There's plenty of other stuff as well, which we could go into World Cup wise. But if you'd rather talk about the Sheffield sporting scene, we might as well do that, shall we?
All right. We'll move hastily on to Sheffield United for a minute. Have you got a round-up this week?
A little bit. There's not much going on.
I'll ask you in a minute.
Just a couple of things. We've got the Sheffield Eagles. They're away at Batley on Sunday.
Yeah.
They lost to Swinton at home last weekend. July the 28th, that's the return of Kell Brook. Of course, it'll be his first fight since the sad passing of Brendan Ingle. Have you got something on that, Alan? Have you?
No, I haven't. No, something I was pledging to mention.
Right, okay.
And I'll mention in a minute.
I'm glad I reminded you. I'm glad I jogged your memory. I'm guessing that's the red versus blue.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so Kell Brook is going to be fighting at the O2. It's on the undercard of Dillian White versus Joseph Parker's fight. 28th of July, it'll be on Sky Sports, I think. I think that's who they've signed with Eddie Hearn and all that. So, yeah, so that'll be a big one. England's cricketers, of course, they're 1-0 up after the win over the Aussies at the Oval. Joe Root with another 50. What a shock about that. And also, of course, this week is the US Open Golf, the second major of the year. Matt Fitzpatrick, who's had a good little run in recent weeks back in Europe. He's shot 3 over par today. Tough golf course, that. Tied 52nd. Danny Willett, 5 over par, tied 72nd. Well, they've done a lot better than Rory McIlroy because he shot 10 over 80, what? So he's miles down. He's outside the top 100. So, so good stuff from those lot. So, anyway, Red versus Blues, Alan.
Reds versus Blues, yes. Well, there's going to be no show. As I said right at the start, we're taking a midsummer break here rather than a midwinter break. So, next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to put repeats out, but some of them you might not have seen. So, they should be quite entertaining, as should Reds v Blues, which is on June the 23rd. That's a week on Saturday at Hillsborough Arena. Now, this is a charity football match. It's been going for a few years now. I know that Don has been peppered with requests, as I have, to turn up. I think he's going to make it there. It's in aid of the Royal British Legion and Hillsborough Cadets, and it's a whole day actually. Yeah. It's not just a match. The family fun day starts at 11 a.m. It's just a couple of quid on the gate. There's lots of attractions there, and the game itself, Reds v Blues, lots of former Wednesday United players taking part, giving their time. That starts at 3 p.m. It's Terry Curran's Blues. I'm the assistant manager here, so
yeah, you are. I was about to say that.
Putting the cones out. I don't know. I don't think I'll get much of a look in on tactics or anything like that. Against David Holdsworth's Reds, I'm only on the Blues side because my team plays in blue, and I think Dom's team also plays in blue.
Yeah, is that cat out of the bag, is it, Dom?
No, it's not. No, it's the cat's already well known.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cat's
big time
Premier League, big time Premier League.
I know.
Town. Who's playing? Terry Curran's Blues, Lee Peacock and Matt Hamshaw. Matt Hamshaw, of course, celebrating a promotion with Rotherham United. Lee Peacock was a member of a promotion-winning team 2005 at Cardiff. Among others, TV host Rob Lamar, Emmerdale actor James Hooton is playing there, and David Holdsworth's Reds. I know David's taking this very, very seriously.
Very. We came in here and he was saying, he was like, I'm going to win, Alan. Yeah. He was, go on, I'm going to beat it. He was loving it, wasn't he?
He absolutely meant it.
Serious.
Craig, and I've got Craig Armstrong here. I mentioned to Craig Armstrong, he was listed in the Red side, and he immediately went on Twitter and sorted it out. So he's playing for the Blues. I know that Carla Ward's playing, the Sheffield United ladies manager.
Handy footballer.
Yeah, he is a good footballer.
Should be running rings around some of those fellas on the Blues, I reckon.
She could be the player on the she's the one that we've got to pay special attention to. I shall be alerting Terry Curran.
Yeah.
To
I hope she's got a shin pads on. Your tactics.
We'll have to mark her out of the game. So that should be a lot of fun. You're going to be there, aren't you?
I'm hoping to be there. Yeah, but I obviously won't be playing as I've got a bit of a dodgy ankle. So
is that the only reason, is it?
It is the only reason. You are. What do you like?
I look forward to that. Anyway, Sheffield United. Dom said, I'm quite happy to talk about Sheffield United. Right. Similar, not much action at the moment. Looking... players' targets are at a premium because I think the managers said, quite rightly, I've got a good squad, and anybody I bring in here has to be as good, if not better, and got to make an impact.
Well, crucially, what's settled down is the ownership issue for the time being.
Yeah.
not resolved, as we know.
No,
but
far from it, I believe.
I think, United, after such a great season back in the Championship, I think, again, they'll be looking at a similar amount of additions to Wednesday. I wouldn't expect that, with the squad that they've got now there in place. And for me, a big loss, of course, was Paul Coots. And the way that he set the tone in midfield and that partnership that he had with John Fleck, and I think you get Paul Coots back and that will make a huge difference to United. But I think it's going to be a lot tougher for them this year, I do, and I think that expectations have to be realistic, that they're in a division where there's some clubs who are paying big money, and United, okay, they're going to be working with an increased budget. But I still think that it's going to be unearthing gems. They'll be looking at the lower leagues. That'll be the Chris Wilder's tactic. That's what it'd be. The approach won't change.
And looking for Premier League loan possibilities, and clearly they're at a level where there's got to be quality that comes in now without a big budget. And I think, we know that. We know that it's improved, but we know it won't have improved pro rata. To expect them to finish 6th is way above where that budget will be. Way above.
I think Chris Wilder is very ambitious, as we know, and so he wants a better 11th, and he wants to be pushing for the playoffs again and to be right in the hunt. But I do think that, again, it depends on recruitment, of course, but I think if they're finishing in the top half, I think that is great. And that's, you look at a Brentford, that's what they've done really well, and they haven't been spending big. And Preston are another team, from Simon Grayson to Alex Neil. That's the sort of level I think that United, it's very similar, that they're trying to emulate and bridge that gap of they don't have the financial muscle of some of the big guns in the Championship, and so they're realistic and they know that.
I think the difficult thing is that having, I like that from Chris Wilder's kind of saying the only people I'm going to bring in are going to be improve the team, not to kind of consolidate in positions and all that.
Doesn't want a big squad.
No, which is quite right as well, because the players that he's got, generally you look at the squad and you go, there's not really any position where you think, God, the weak there or the weak there. They've got good solid players, so they don't need to do that. On paper, though, you look in January and you think Ricky Holmes, obviously worked with Chris before, done well, playing well in League One. You probably think, hey, he could step up. I know he had the age, but he came in and didn't really do it. And then there was a couple of Lee Evans was the exception, because he was outstanding. He was outstanding. He was never going to be.
Ryan Leonard
didn't have the impact.
And then of course James Wilson from Man United. You look on paper and you think, wow, he's scored in the Premier League for Man United. He's a good young lad. Injuries, trying to get himself back. You'd think he'd be hungry. He just wasn't. He wasn't at the races. He was probably lacking a little bit in effort, and he wasn't quite the player that I think everybody hoped for. Leeds Chris as well.
The priority positions for United up front is clearly a big one.
And one centre back, I think.
And then the goalkeeping situation too. Are they going to go back in for Jamal Blackman? And their interest is still there. So Simon Moore is a very good, competent goalkeeper at this level.
And as with Wednesday, they've got players, one in particular, who are likely to command a big fee. And you just wonder if somebody pushed the boat out with 10, 15 million pounds for David Brooks, who didn't make the impact at the end of the season that people hoped he would, but he had suffered from glandular fever. You wonder how much of a tester that would be. And Chris Wilder would be well within his rights to say, look, if we're going to do that, I want all of the money to spend.
It's a tricky one for United if that does happen, as Brooks. I still think the consistency needs to come, but he's a young player. But he does have that X factor, and he again has that ability to open up defences and can terrorise them with the dribbling ability that he
does. But then you compare that to, not belittling him at all, because he's young, he's raw, and he's great. And he had 2 massive moments. Obviously at Hillsbury was great, and then at Ellen Road he scored the winner there, which was just magical for Blades fans. But then you look and you think, and I don't want to draw a direct comparison, because obviously Ryan Sessegnon at Fulham is a complete anomaly. He's fantastic and was young player of the year and all that. But if you draw the comparisons there, he's not going to get you promotion single-handedly, is he? £15 million, if you're going to get a big chunk of the fee.
Sessegnon outstanding, but had a regular position that he constantly played. Brooks, not doubting his talent, but what's his position? Do we know? You know, and where do you fit him in?
It's all happened very quickly for David Brooks. This time last year, you know, it was on the brink of joining Chesterfield. He was nowhere, you know, near.
That's a sore point. Don't keep mentioning.
Yeah, I know. Do you reckon he'd have kept you up?
Sorry,
don't keep mentioning. I think he might have done. I think he might have done. But if Blades could get a deal, as they did with Kyle Walker some years ago, where a club bought him for a big fee and loaned him back for the season for him to continue his football education.
Goals are the big thing for United.
Is that the best
I think it's going to be a big ask for Leon Clark to again replicate the season that he just had, and when he had the purple patch in front of goal. Sort of around Christmas time, and Billy Sharp chipped him. But again, they are two players who are entering not quite the twilight of their career, but they need, I think, youth around them. Again, you need to get Clayton Donaldson didn't work, so they need to again, I think, get that area right.
One more question for you on Sheffield Wednesday, which intrigues me. Sean Clare, what's going on? At one stage, it looked perhaps a formality that he would sign with Wednesday. Then it looked very likely he was going to go. And now we're not sure, are we?
No, I think at this stage, Sean Clare is not going to be a Sheffield Wednesday player next season. And the same with George Hurst applies. And it's a crying shame. It's a big disappointment. They're two really good prospects. And Sean Clare, you look at it from the outside, and Wednesday, last season, they played it great with him. They sent him out on loan to Gillingham. He got games under his belt, played 20 or so times, then came back and then played half a dozen or so times. And then Wednesday offered him what they believe was a good contract offer. And it's dragged on and on and on. And now we're in the middle of June and he's not signed new contract. So unless there is a dramatic U-turn, I don't think that Sean Clare is going to be on Wednesday's books next season.
We won't continue that conversation because it's all been said pretty well. And I think we've known for months really what the likely outcome of that was going to be.
But there are some, it does need to be stressed that there are some promising and young, exciting talent that's come through in that academy over the last 6 months, and that it's great to see that Lukai has put trust in so many of them, from Jordan Thornley, Sean Clare, Frederick Nielsen, and I think there will be more next year that will be called upon.
And names, I know you regularly watch the younger teams at Wednesday, the under-23s.
I think Alex Hunt is one that they're big admirers of. He's a young midfielder, and he's playing in the under-18s last year, and I think he scored half a dozen or so goals. He was impressive. And a youngster who's been playing for the under-18s, and then he got promoted to the under-23s, Bulgarian striker called Preslav Borakov, who has just completed a 2-year scholarship, and he's again somebody who I think, he's 18, has got a lot of potential.
Excellent. It's all good to hear that. There's plenty to look forward to, plenty of excitement. June the 21st, I think the fixtures are out. Yeah. That's like next Thursday, isn't it? Yeah. Is it Thursday next week? The fixtures are...
We're not here, hey.
No, none of us are going to be here, but everybody's going to play each other home and away, as they always do. Yeah. You know, I treat fixtures like a Christmas. I unwrap them slowly. I don't look at them and then just unwrap them as the season goes on.
I do as well. I don't get the excitement with it. It's a hype thing, isn't it?
Thanks ever so much for watching. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to Dom. Thanks to Harry and Damien earlier. Thank you to you for watching. We'll take a short break. Hope you can rejoin us in a few weeks' time. This is on my YouTube channel this evening. Take care. Bye-bye.